Greetings, Theories of Abstraction students. I hope this finds you well and have enjoyed a productive week. I thought I would, as I'm in the process of reading through your discussion prompts regarding German Expressionism, I wanted to give you a video chat that brings up some of the issues that you've been bringing up that are of interest to me, that I think are important to share with you all. One of the things that I think is really important is to emphasize the fact that with the emergence of the development of modern art is as much a social phenomenon as it is a stylistic or an artistic development. And we see this with German Expressionism. First and foremost, the presentation of the work takes place outside the official context of the Academy, the official state-sanctioned exhibitions, and the focal point of these artists coming together as a group to exhibit their work is something we see with the Impressionists. The Impressionists are, for the most part, an exhibiting group. There are some stylistic similarities, some basic affinities, but there are also some significant differences. Gauguin and Seurat, for example, and Degas are painters that are very different than Monet and Pissarro. And there were some artists that shared an affinity with the Impressionists. Monet would be one of them, who refused to exhibit. And who simply refused to exhibit with the Impressionists. He wanted to work within the context of the officially sanctioned exhibitions. But it's important to see that social structure, that the secessions, the various artists coming together, taking control of exhibiting their work, is a key component of modern artistic expression. It's not just the stylistic developments. The stylistic developments develop hand in hand, emerge hand in hand with the social, with the new sociology of artistic practice, in which artists are taking greater control, in which artists are staging their own exhibitions. They're also then articulating their own contexts for how we are to experience and to interpret their work. Hence the development of an important artistic genre. That is the manifesto and the artist statement, which emerge in modernity. They emerge as means by which the artist deals with the lack of institutional structure within the context of the Academy and the state-sanctioned structure within which art is seen as having a particular kind of meaning. But that if art is operating differently in social groups, operating differently for the Impressionists, for Post-Impressionists, for the Nabi and the Symbolists, for the German Expressionists, then there needs to be a certain kind of statement of purpose, a context within which that work will be seen as exhibiting, as representing the values that are embraced by that community. Hence the importance of the Blue Rider Almanac for the Blue Rider group and the German Expressionists. Hence the importance of the manifestos and various ways of writing in which the artists are writing about their work. And so modern art and the development of abstraction is not just a stylistic development in the way that the art looks, but in the language that's used to interpret it. And as the artist is making these different paintings, they are also writing and talking about their work. Kandinsky, for example, is an important artist in this aspect. Also, this aspect of the social dimension is increasingly inclusive of women, not just serving as like allegorical and symbolic erotic muses, but is actually serving as co-laborers in artistic practice. And that's very important because the artists were trying as an alternative social organism, as a way of reordering society in an ideal way, a society of artists, of creatives, rather than a society of industrialists or a society of the oppressed, art, human beings that have power to be able to create. And certainly this aspect of creating and creating new forms is crucial in the context of the German Expressionists, in which what is experience is death and destruction with the First World War. We'll see this also in the work, you've seen this also with the work of Matisse at the turn of the 20th century, and also with Picasso. That there seems to be new forms that need to be developed within the context of the visual arts that embraces, that recognizes the existence of ugliness, death, destruction, but somehow and in some way creates some kind of beauty out of it. And this aspect of developing new forms, the development of abstraction in its various manifestations, is an attempt to deal more directly with spirituality, with emotion, to try to connect at a deeper humanity. And certainly the First World War is seen as evidence that Western civilization, Western European civilization, is sick, that it has lost connection with life, that it's now a culture of death. And how can you not feel that for them with the horror of the trenches, with no man's land, with mustard gas, with the tanks, with the change in warfare in which the infantry are just chattel. They become organic sandbags for tanks to roll over. Where is art? Where is life? Where is beauty? Where is God? And it was seen that the traditional forms, the traditional images of the Judeo-Christian tradition just seemed to be inadequate. And so that's why we see artists moving towards African artifacts, this focus on primitivism, on looking at non-Western cultures with the belief that, given the fact that they aren't operating within a kind of Western bourgeois framework, that they had a connection to life, to authentic spirituality, that a God who is alive is there. And abstraction is a means by which the artists are trying to rediscover truth rather than to represent the truth of the past. Instead of representing the ideals in antiquity or the Renaissance, trying to discover those new truths, new manifestations that truth is taking in this Holocaust present. After the Second World War, the German theorist Theodor Adorno asked the question, is poetry possible? Is art possible after Auschwitz? And a similar question, where is God at Auschwitz? Where is God in the trenches? What is interesting for the German Expressionists is that while they're operating outside the context of the church, and they're being influenced by primitivism, by African masks, by African imagery, they're also utilizing biblical images, Old Testament, New Testament images, images of Christ. And in many ways, how can you not see Christ hanging on the cross as emblematic, not just of religion, of Christianity turned into a Western European worldview that supports institutional structures like the church and the state, authorizes power, etc., but that it's the symbol of humanity, of injustice, but also of hope. I didn't send it to you. I made mention of it in my email on Monday, but I don't think I or last week, but I don't think I sent it to you. This manuscript essay that I wrote for an exhibition on German Expressionism and the German Expressionists' use of biblical imagery, and I'm attaching it to this Friday email for you to look at. Be aware that it's rough. Hadn't been copy edited yet for publication, but it accompanies an exhibition that's traveling around in various Christian college art galleries. But the attempt for these artists to even adapt Christian Old Testament and New Testament imagery for the purpose of a modern engagement with modern life is something that I think is striking. Also, there is a deep connection with the development of abstract painting and music. That music is an abstract art form. It addresses us in a direct way, in a way that visual and auditory languages don't quite, that written language and visual painting don't quite get at. But the attempt was to dissolve painting into a certain kind of directness, that the notes were the paint strokes, loosened from the shackles of representing objects. They could be free to connect with emotion. And really, in many ways, an abstraction was a means by which freedom could be achieved, more direct control, the attempt to discover truth, are aspects that I think are important. So don't lose sight in your studies as you're studying the development of modern art theory and criticism. Don't underestimate the crucial importance of social structures and how that the stylistic developments are operating hand in glove with social developments, and that those social developments are just as important as the stylistic developments. It's important that abstraction, as it's operating in the context of the German Expressionists, is taking place in a particular community, a self-described membership group, a club in which they got together, they shared ideas, they published journals, they published manifestos. It was a mini society, and that social structure is crucial for the development of that artistic practice, of that creativity. A new way of being initiated into artistic practice. So I hope these thoughts are helpful to you. I look forward to addressing you in a few more days as we will begin week 5, I think, with Picasso. And have a great weekend.